Chad Brendel joins us, Bearcat Journal on 365 Sports. Chad, you ever smoke cigars?
I'm not a cigar guy.
Okay.
I don't mind them, but it's not a regular habit of mine, Paul.
I used to, and I don't nearly as much, but I do when I'm playing around the golf. It's just like, I don't know, it kind of relaxes me and gets me ready to hit the ball God knows where. All right, so we had Big 12 Media Days, Vegas. It went really well. It was a lot of fun. We know where Cincinnati kind of seems like, although Coach Satterfield's been fantastic when we've had him on. I've been kind of doing this. It's kind of a generic question. On a scale of A, B, C, D, or F, where is Cincinnati if this was a grade report entering the season?
Boy, that's a tough one. I would go probably a C plus.
Okay.
If I had to accurately assess kind of where I think things are, I think the biggest issue they faced last year was depth, and I think that has been drastically improved. But coming off a 3-9 season, obviously there's still a lot they got to work on.
Chad, quarterback-wise, Brendan Sorsby came in. How do you feel he's progressed in this system? And they've gone transfer. Do you feel like they'll be able to develop a guy here coming up as well?
Well, yeah, the nice part about Sorsby is he's a redshirt sophomore. Mm-hmm. So, with Emory Jones, it was a one and done situation. With you, you're going to have. You guys still have me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Sorsby, you're going to have some time with him, hopefully to kind of develop and become that longer term solution. But so far, he's looked really good. I mean, one of the biggest challenges offensively for them last year is they really failed to open up the middle of the field. It just wasn't something that was in Emory Jones' skill set, and I think it's something that hampered the offense. I think they've got a really good outside receiver, number one receiver in Xavier Henderson, who came in from Florida last year, but they never really got him going because everybody was able to just zero in on him, try to take him away, and they couldn't hurt you really in any other way. So I think that's something that, in Sorsby's skill set should be a huge lift to the offense that, allows for some things that they didn't have a year ago.
What is the status of Corleone? Did I see also, was it earlier this week or recently that another defensive lineman went down?
Yeah, so they had a transfer defensive lineman, Micah Coleman, that tore his Achilles. And he was kind of a guy they were bringing in to booster that pass rush, which was pretty non-existent last year. So that was a pretty big blow for their transfer portal haul. As far as Corleone, they're optimistic. He's out, with the team at camp. He's working out every day. He hasn't been cleared for full contact yet, but he's doing pretty much everything else. So, if I had to guess, you probably won't see him week one against, an FCS team. But then depending on how the rest of, this month goes between now and when they get into Pitt week 2 and Miami of Ohio week 3, I think there's at least some optimism that he'll be ready sooner than later once the season gets started.
What is the secret strength of this team that everybody is underselling right now? Or do you not know that because, again, this still feels very new with Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield, even though it's year 2?
Well, I don't think it's secret. They were the number 6 run team in the country last year, and they couldn't pass the ball. So imagine, yards per – and it was yards per carry, too. It wasn't just they piled up a bunch of yards because, they couldn't pass the ball. They had a really high yards per carry average that was top 10 in the nation. So that's going to be what they have to lean on if they're going to win games in this conference. And then, you hope everything else kind of falls into place from there and they can, find much more of a rhythm than they found in year 1.
Satterfield took over a program where a lot of people obviously would love for Luke Fickell to still be there. He's gone. He's at Wisconsin. He takes the job, comes in from Louisville. What is the timeline of what Cincinnati wants to see from him before they get uncomfortable?
I mean, you want to see a postseason this year. I think they've got an opportunity with the way that their season opens. The first 4 or 5 games are favorable, and if you can get 4 or 5 wins in that early part, if you can find a little bit of momentum, you hope you can find a little bit of confidence, and you can get the ball rolling downhill a little bit. That's if they go 3-9 again. I mean, with the way his contract is structured, he's not going to be gone after year 2. But another bad season, and the rumblings are going to begin around town. Mm-hmm. So I think getting to 6-6 this year, getting into bowl eligibility, starting fast, and then probably trying to they've got road games at the end of the season at Kansas State, at Iowa State. Those are going to be pretty tough coming down the stretch. But if you can build some momentum early, get to 6-7 wins, I think that would be seen as significant progress from where they were a season ago.
Chad, what is the vibe around Scott Satterfield in Cincinnati with the fans? Have they embraced him yet, or is that going to take a little more time and some more wins?
It's going to take some wins. You guys know, man. Following, Luke Fickell is considered the greatest coach in UC history, right? If not, right up there with Brian Kelly. And Butch Jones went through some of this too, following Brian Kelly, where Butch Jones, shared 2 Big East championships, and fans still kind of gave him a hard time because he wasn't Brian Kelly. So Satterfield's got a little bit of an uphill climb, but winning generally can take the heat off of you. They're just in a much different and much more difficult situation to pile up those wins, to get the fan base some of those concerns, having them alleviated. So, the time is ticking. Unfortunately, that's the way college sports is right now. I think it's unfortunate because I think we're probably seeing a lot of good coaches get fired before they really have a chance to hit their stride. But winning is the name of the game now, gentlemen.
Yep. A lot of money, man. There's so much money.
Yep.
So, Chad, my question with the new Big 12 again, 8 of the 16 teams are brand new. West Virginia and TCU, of course, came in back about 12 or 13 years ago, but it is filled with newcomers from when Cincinnati, Houston, UCF, and BYU, and now the others. What are a couple of things that you are interested in seeing how it all falls, how it all kind of happens this year?
I think the evolution of offense in this conference is fascinating to me because, when Cincinnati was introduced into the Big 12, it was like air raid and, teams are throwing it all around and 50, 60 points. And then they get to the Big 12 and it's like, oh no, there's 7 of the top 10 running backs in the country or whatever. Corey Kiner's a 1,000-yard back. Is he he's not a top 5 back in the conference. And you're talking about a 4-star that started his career at LSU and moved back home. That's really fascinating to me. And then how do the defenses react to that? Because Iowa State, went to that 3-high safety, 3-3-5. And now it seems like teams are kind of going away from why Iowa State went to that defense that was so effective. So now are you going to have to get bigger again, bigger linebackers, bigger defensive linemen, bigger safeties, so that they're not, too light in the britches to defend the box. I mean, that really to me is fascinating about this conference. Seeing that ebb and flow of, okay, it's pass happy, the defense caught up, now the offense adjusts. What does the defense do? I think that's the really fun part about this league this year, because I think there's going to be, probably 4 top 10 rushing attacks in this conference.
Yep.
When you look at Central Florida will be there. Gus Malzahn runs the ball. Cincinnati will probably be there. West Virginia will probably be there. And then Oklahoma State has the best back in the country.
Yep. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Yeah. I hiccuped with excitement thinking about all the run in the Big 12. But Chad, you also can throw in Kansas and Kansas State in there because they're probably going to run the ball a ton too.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen that Kansas offense. Like, that's a cheat code in NCAA 25, running that Kansas offense and just running all over people. You dread when you see your opponent comes up with Kansas. You're like, oh no.
How good are you? How good are you at the game, Chad? So far,
I don't have enough time to be really good at it.
There you go. Yep.
I have a 14-year-old daughter that's playing freshman volleyball, so I go to camp, and I don't know if you guys know this. UC goes away to camp. Like, they have a facility that's about 45, 50 minutes outside of Cincinnati that used to be a church retreat. And they have turned this church retreat into, there's a full-length football field. There's a 70 or 80-yard football field. There's a giant dining hall. They've built all these dorms and a bunk room. And it's incredible what UC does for camp. So I have to drive 50 minutes there, 50 minutes back, and tote my daughter back and forth to volleyball, and it's really, really affecting my ability to play college football 25.
The nerve of her to have extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Right. The nerve of her to be 14 and not able to drive her own little rear end to volleyball practice.
My grandfather was driving at 11. And granted that was in 1932, and nobody cared, but still.
Yeah.
Look, the problem is, my wife grew up in New York, and I remember how my wife drove, and I'm terrified.
Oh my God. Chad, love the segment with you every time, man. Really do. I'm glad the kids are doing well. You too. Thanks for your time. We'll be on with you again. We'll be back in touch.
All right, gentlemen. I always love talking to you. Thanks for having me on. Much appreciated.
So many good media analysts, writers, columnists, broadcasters we've gotten to know since the new 4 and now 8 teams have joined the Big 12, and Chad was one of them.